there. Welcome to episode 6 of the Coffe, Yarn, and Dinosaurs podcast. Finally! For those of you guys who have subscribed and followed me, you know that it's been like a month and a half since I've recorded my last podcast. And I'm pretty sure in my last podcast I was saying things like, I'm going to record a podcast more regularly and every 2 weeks and stuff like that. But life got a little crazy. But I'm here now, and I'm really grateful for all of you who keep tuning in. And for if you're new, welcome. Hi, my name's Ruth. I am the designer behind Everyday Yarnworks knitting patterns and crochet patterns. I do have crochet patterns too. You can find me on Instagram as @EverydayYarnworks, and just about everywhere else. Facebook, Ravelry, I'm Brash Elegance, and I'll put that below because I changed my Ravelry name too many times and I can't change it again. So go figure. But yeah, you can find me just about everywhere as Everyday Yarnworks. So this is the Coffe, Yarn, and Dinosaurs podcast. It's mostly about knitting and yarn, and if you could see my table right now, I'm going to try to put a video in the beginning of this. There's just a sea of yarn all around me because it's been a month and a half since I've recorded a podcast, right? So I was like, all right, I'm going to pile up my stuff. I'm going to pile up what I need to show everybody, and I started making a pile. This is my kitchen table right here. Started making a pile on my kitchen table. I was like, here's some yarn, here's some... Guys, I'm surrounded. I'm pretty sure my husband was walking out the door and he just started like kind of chuckling a little bit because literally where I am right now, I made a clear space for the camera, you guys, but there's like my whole table is full over here, and then on the floor over here, I've got 2 bins and 2 tote bags. So I have a lot of stuff to show you guys today, which is good because sometimes I'm worried I won't have enough to show you, but today we're good. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of admin type stuff. Last podcast, I was celebrating 100 subscribers. Thank you so much, you guys. And so I did a giveaway that I said, please comment below and I'll choose a winner out of the comments to win a free pattern from me. So I did a random number generator, and the winner is number 8, Fallon Peters. So Fallon, please contact me and let me know which of the patterns from my Ravelry store you would like me to gift to you as a thank you for subscribing. And while we're at on that topic, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you guys who commented and told me what you like about the podcast, because it's so helpful to me to get that feedback. And I really appreciated hearing a lot of you say things like, I'm a mom too, and you know, it's nice to see another mom who knits or a mom who designs or things like that. It was just really encouraging to me, especially the couple of you that said, wow, you get so much done. Because a lot of times I feel like I don't get much done, and that sometimes I do actually put off podcasting because maybe I've had a couple of weeks where I haven't knit that much, or I have knit, but it's only been on one project, and I feel like, how can I podcast and hold up one project and go, hey, it's been 2 or 3 weeks and I made one project? But I think I'm going to start doing that anyway, because you guys have really encouraged me that you understand what it's like to be a mom or to be a busy person who's kind of just trying to sneak in crafting time where they can. So yeah, so that's the giveaway. The second, I'll tell you what I'm drinking first because I'm about to take a sip of it. This is, I'll show you the tin. Harney and Sons Vanilla Komoro Tea, which of course I have a podcast that's called Coffe, Yarn, and Dinosaurs, And for those of you who don't know, I'm actually pregnant right now with my third child, and my body has not reacted well to coffee in general, even decaf this pregnancy. So I am completely off of coffee, and that started like the week after I put out that I changed the name to Coffee Yarn and Dinosaurs. So there's irony for you. You'll probably be seeing tea and God knows what else, but you probably won't be seeing coffee until, I don't know, December, January. Ta-da! But anyway, this is a decaf black tea. And the funny thing is, when I got it the first time, I didn't actually realize it was decaf, which is amazing because a lot of decaf teas have sort of that weird taste, like you can taste that something's missing or something's a little different or a little off, and this one doesn't. I really like drinking this at night, and it obviously in the afternoon sometimes too, but I really like drinking this at night because it's not a heavy tea. It's got a very light taste to it. I add milk and sugar because that's how I drink black tea, but if you're the kind of person who drinks black tea without milk and sugar, very light. It's very nice for after dinner. So next piece of admin stuff. I'm really excited because a couple of other designer friends and I decided that we were going to start an event for fall. And it's an Instagram-based event called the Fall Shawl Knit Along. And basically what we've done is there's 7 of us that have taken 5 of our shawl patterns, and if you knit any of our shawl patterns starting today, August 15th, 2017, you cast on from today or later, and you finish the shawl by October 15th, you can be part of our Fall Shawl Cal. So you just have to pick one of the patterns that we have participating, and I'm gonna link to the Ravelry group where we put all of the information, because sometimes when there's Instagram stuff, it's really easy to lose the information about an event, especially because they run for so long. Like if it's a 2-month-long event and you see somebody like Fall Shawl Cal, and I have no idea what that is because it's on Instagram, and where can I find this information? So there's a Ravelry group where the information is that you can find it. So because I only have 5 shawl patterns, that means that all of my shawl patterns are eligible, which is amazing. So it's less confusing for you guys. So if you are going to be knitting one of my shawl patterns between now, August 15th and October 15th, just put the hashtag fall, what am I supposed to do? Hashtag? Guys, I'm such a loser. Hashtag, what am I doing? Hashtag Fall Shawl Cal 2017 in your Instagram post, and that'll automatically make you eligible for prizes. We're also doing a photo challenge with it. So every week, like the first week this week, you would put the hashtag cast on with your picture of one of our eligible patterns, and we'll be picking each week for prizes. Patterns, maybe some yarn, maybe some other things, knitting books, knitting bags. I still have to compile the whole list. There's so many prizes, you guys. All of the designers doing this, actually like 95% of the prizes are designer donated, which is fantastic because these designers have gone above and beyond for you guys to have great prizes for this event. So check it out. There will be a link below. I'll probably put it across the screen as well. I'm so excited about this. It's great. A lot of great designers, a lot of awesome shawl patterns. I'm going to be trying to knit as many other designers' shawl patterns as I can, and I already started one, and you'll see it later in the podcast because, guys, I just love them so much. So, with that said, I am going to start, I think I'm gonna start with whips because I have a lot of whips and I have some FOs, but the way things are stacked around me, I think I have to work through the whips before I can reach the FOs. So let me just grab a bag and get started. Oh, okay, here. The first whip is actually, what do you call it, an HO, half-finished object. If you guys remember, maybe the last podcast or two ago, I showed you these bright, crazy slippers. And I was like, I'm going to do something with them, and I will finish them off so they're actual slippers that I can wear. And so I was like, all right, I have to do this. So I took one slipper, and I just put, it's crocheted. So it's front post and back post alternating, half double crochet for a cuff. And I got a little wonky with the decreases because, I don't know guys, I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I put a crab stitch at the top, reverse single crochet, and I put it on my foot, and the darn thing doesn't even fit. So I don't know what happened with that. I don't know why this doesn't fit anymore, but now my heel ends about here. So this whole, like, this is where my heel is supposed to stop, and this is where my heel actually stops. So I think I'm gonna have to find someone with smaller feet than me because I've made slippers and they don't fit. So this, friends, is why you should not leave whips lying around in a bucket for 3 years. Because apparently, which I did some research, apparently when you get pregnant, your feet can change in size. So I'm assuming what happened is that I started these before I started having kids, then I had kids, and my feet got bigger. So somebody lucky will be getting these for Christmas this year because they do not now, nor will they ever fit my feet. So that is my first whip. My second one is also kind of a half-finished object. I recently released about 4 new patterns, and one of them I designed for a subscription company called Yarnbox. And what Yarnbox does is you subscribe and they have a dyer dye yarn for a certain month, and you get a skein of yarn and a pattern. In my case, they asked me to design socks. So I don't have the actual sample socks with me because they got mailed out to Yarnbox so they could use them as a sample, but I started making a second pair. So the original pair is ankle socks, and I wanted to see what they would look like if I made them into tall socks as well. So I'm gonna put them on my hand like a little sock puppets so you can see the design. This is a toe-up sock, and wow, you know, it would probably help if I turn my hand upside down, like so, with whale tail, I call it whale tail lace on it, because look, it reminds me of just like little whale tails. And the pattern is called Call Me Ishmael, like the opening line from the book Moby Dick, where they are whalers. So this sock has a short row heel. Oh, there you go. When I don't put it on my hand, you can see it better. Go figure. So this is lace. A lot of people look at it and they think that it's a cabled pattern, but it is actually lace, and it's a toe-up sock. So if you decide you want to make like shorties, ankle socks, you could just go from the toe up, turn your heel, and be done. Super easy. Or you could extend them like this. So this yarn is gorgeous, by the way. This is from Fiber for the People, and that is Taylor from the Wool Needles Hands podcast. And this is her merino cashmere nylon base. And I think it's called her Costanza base, but I'm not 100% positive because sometimes dyers have names for their bases and I don't know what they are. So I'm going to show you, this is the back of the leg is just stockinette. So you can kind of see, the colors there. And then again, what it looks like in the front. And I'm really happy because I had a lot of testers intentionally make this pattern with almost more of a variegated yarn or a really high contrast yarn, or like this, you know, one that has, I guess this is a tonal yarn. I would call this a tonal yarn, but it's not just plain solid. And I wanted to know from my testers, would this pattern show up in a non-solid yarn? Because I get a lot of non-solid yarns lately, so I've been trying to design patterns that will work well with non-solid yarns, variegated or speckled or whatever, so the pattern will actually show up and you can see the pattern. Because there's nothing worse than putting a whole lot of effort into like a lace sock and then you can't even see the darn thing when it's finished because the yarn is obscuring the pattern. So, sock number 1 is done. Sock number 2 is from the toe up. I'm almost at the heel turn. So you can see this is what it would look like if you were just gonna make a shorty sock or whatever. These are my trusty Tiaogu red lace needles in size 2, which is 2.75 millimeters. And you can see, even though they kind of cross a little bit, try not to dunk this in my tea, even though they cross a little bit, like they twist a tad, I really like these for knitting socks because they don't twist that much. They have a really stiff cable, and I don't think you would be able to see it if I put it up to the camera, but it's actually like a metal cable inside of a plastic or nylon or whatever coating around it. So it's a very stiff cable, but that means that you don't get a lot of those like curly cues where the cable gets twisted up or anything like that. And they're very pointy, and I like sharp needles, so very pointy needles, not twisty cables. And here's what the yarn looks like caked up. And I'm very curious to see if the second sock looks like the first one, because if you look at the first one, it's pretty dark. There's not a lot of, like, there's some lighter colors as I get closer to the top, but especially on the foot, it's pretty dark. But if you look at the skein, it looks like it gets, it looks like it gets lighter as it goes. And I'm wondering if that's because of how it's dyed. I've noticed lately that a lot of indie dyers, because I've looked up how you dye yarn because I'm curious and I like to play around with it sometimes, I know that there's a method where dyers will put the yarn into the pot and just put the color on top, so you get a more saturated color on the top of the yarn and less saturated on the bottom, which is totally fine, and it gives the socks a really unique look. But I'm curious to see if they actually match when I'm finished with them because of that difference and the tonality in the yarn. So we shall see. So that is whip number 2 in one of my dinky little hand-sewn cotton bags, which I mentioned last time. Still using them. Still have not sewn any more of those bags that I talked about a month and a half ago, because I am a chicken when it comes to the sewing machine. So that is project. I'm gonna start just like tossing these off to the side somewhere, because obviously I have yarn everywhere. So that's whip number 2. Whip number 3 I just started today, actually, because it's a fall shawl cowl pattern, which is super exciting. So this is, you can't see very much of it, but I will still show you anyway. The beginning of a shabby chic shawl by Lindsay Luchuk. Her design name is Knit Eco Chic. And so because she does a lot of really great, I'm probably going to use the wrong terminology, but eco-friendly designs. Like she uses a lot of organic materials. She doesn't use wool or anything else. So her designs are in cotton and linen, and I don't know what other plant-based fibers there are because I don't use them. But she's a really great resource for natural plant fiber-based yarns that aren't like that low-grade kitchen cotton that you would find at a box store like Michael's or Joann's or something like that. So this is wool still, but this is a naturally plant-dyed yarn from Spunwear Over the Rainbow, and I'll show you the cake. So what that means is that instead of using chemicals to dye the yarn, she found plants and used them to dye the yarn instead. So this is, I believe she said logwood bark. She's a Canadian dyer, and I think she just kind of forages for whatever she can find annually, because some of these plants only bloom annually. So this is logwood bark, and this skein actually, I have its sister skein. Hang on, I'm gonna pause it and get it. Okay, so here is the sister skein, and this is why I wanted to show you, because this is a gorgeous, gorgeous, oh yeah, there's the card, Spunwear Over the Rainbow. And it is superwash merino, sport weight yarn, 328 yards in each one, and they are dyed with logwood bark. So this one is the one that she dipped into the pot first, and then there was a little bit of dye left over, so she dipped this one into the pot, which I think is really cool because it's the same dye, and you can tell that it's the same tone, but it's not the same finished color. Like this one obviously is a solid and it's going to knit up in a solid color, but this one is very variegated and tonal. So it's going to be a totally different look than using a solid yarn. And I just think it's pretty, kind of lavendery. So this you will see more of once I get more than 1.5 inches knit. But the cool thing about this pattern is it starts from the widest point and decreases. So I'm actually knitting the most amount of stitches right now that I will for the whole pattern. Pretty cool. It's charted and written out, and I'm really excited. I'm excited to show you guys more of it because it has really cool design elements in it. Yeah, you'll just have to wait and see. Very cool design elements in it. So that is number 2. Putting my yarns away and tossing. Yes, let's do that. With number 3 in my massive Harry Potter sweater bag. Ruth, what could you possibly have that's so big that it needs to be in a gigantic bag? I'm glad you asked. I am planning, hopefully, to go to Rhinebeck this year, which is awesome. I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to live on the East Coast, and I was like, you know, I think this is the year. I think I'm just going to go. So, everybody makes a sweater for Rhinebeck, right? Gotta make a Rhinebeck sweater. So I decided that my Rhinebeck sweater is going to be Row by Michelle Wang? I'm sorry, Michelle. It's a beautiful sweater. I'm probably saying your name wrong. So I have, it's a pieced sweater, And I have no idea how you guys are gonna see all of it because of where I'm sitting in regards to the camera. So I'm just gonna show you a little bit at a time and maybe stand up. Da, 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 da. So this is the back portion of it because it's a pieced sweater. And it's not just a sweater, it's more like a sweater coat. So yes, it is oversized, and yes, it is gonna be pretty big on me, but that's okay because at Rhinebeck, if I make it, I will be probably about 8 months pregnant. So I wanted something big and loose and comfortable that I could just throw on or throw off as I need to. Nothing tight, obviously not a pullover because it will not fit on me. And I've had this sweater in my Ravelry queue for years, since it came out, and I looked at it and was like, this is so complicated, how will I ever do it? And I'm so proud of this. It's so pretty, just one row at a time, and it's not as difficult as I thought it would be. And look at those cables, they're so pretty. And I cannot believe that it showed up because this yarn is Knit Picks. Let me get a skein of it. Knit Picks City Tweed DK. And the colorway is, let's see if you can see that. The colorway is Orca. And when I looked at it online, it said medium charcoal. And I was like, cool, medium charcoal. That's like medium gray, right? Well, when it got here, I looked at it and I was like, it's almost black. I'm going to knit the most complicated cable knit sweater of my life in black yarn. Why? Why would I do this to myself? But I'm not going to return it because it's, you know. So I decided I was going to start the sweater, see if I could see the pattern, and lo and behold, backside of the sweater. Lo and behold, the cables show up in this charcoal gray, which is amazing. So I think I might end up making a second one, not now, but eventually, so you can see the cables a little bit better. But this is so, let me see if you can see the halo on this. Yeah, kind of, a little bit. Yeah, there it is. You see that halo? That's alpaca. So this is 55% merino, 25% superfine alpaca, and 20% Donegal tweed. And of course, I'm making a sweater and it comes in these little tiny 50-gram skeins. So I've used like 7 of them already, and I ordered 22. I think I technically need 20 to 21, but I ordered 22 just in case. So in theory, I'm about 25 to 30% of the way through this sweater. Maybe more, because finished the back, and right now I'm working on detangling, apparently, one of the fronts of the sweater. So it has just that smaller cable, and this is the left front, so this will go on the side here, like so. Ta-da! So this nice cable will be running all the way up the side. This is probably going to be a little more under the arm. And then there's this nice big shawl collar, a 2x2 ribbed shawl collar that comes, like, it's going to be so snuggly and comfy. It's going to be like wearing a blanket, but it's a sweater, and I'm so excited. So here's the funny thing. So I swatched, right? And I got gauge perfectly without blocking it on size 8 needles. And I was like, self, be smart. Alpaca grows when you block it, and it's not superwash, so I know the yarn is gonna grow, right? So I did everything, soaked it, I wet blocked it, I pinned it out, and when I pinned it out, of course, the swatch grew, and I was like, I'm a genius. I knew what to do. I'm gonna go down a needle size. And then, after having gotten probably about, upside down again, man, what is up with this? After having gotten about yay far into the sweater, I was like, I'm gonna check my swatch now that it's dry and see what happened. And lo and behold, it went back to where it was before. So technically I'm knitting this on a size smaller needles than I need to be, but this sweater calls for 8 inches of negative ease. So if you don't know what that means that whatever sweaters are measured in bust size, right? So you measure around your bust, and then negative or positive ease is that the final dimension of the garment. If it's positive ease, it's that many inches larger than your actual measurement. And if it's negative ease, it's that many inches smaller than your actual measurement. So this sweater is intended to have about 8 inches of positive ease, which is, it's gonna be like a jacket. Like I could wear it over a long sleeve shirt. It's still gonna be loose. It's still gonna be comfy. So I'm not really worried about my needle size being one size too small, because regardless, I have 8 inches of positive ease to work with. So even if it turns into 6 inches of positive ease, good to go. Not concerned. And the nice thing is the pattern gives the measurement how long it should go in inches. So I don't have to worry about my gauge being off height-wise, because I can just knit to the proper amount of inches and then I'm good. So this is my rose sweater. It is my Rhinebeck sweater. I'm still not sure which days I'm going, because I'm probably going to be bringing my small children with me and my husband. So it's going to be quite the adventure getting all of us there and Rhinebecking things, but it's going to happen. Next work in progress. I told you there were a lot. This is one of my patterns that I am revamping. Last time I showed you the Ode to Summer mitts, the fingerless gloves, and I still have not finished them. There is no progress on them, so I am not going to show you. But this is my Ode to Summer hat. Dun, 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 dun. And the camera's kind of blowing this out a little bit. This is actually more of a dark cranberry color, less of the cherry. But if you can see, there's that little flower on the front of it. And this is in Monostel Uruguay Maxima, which is, it is so soft. It's a single ply, I don't think it's superwash, it's a single ply merino, and it is just squishy, 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 and I love it. It's so soft, and it works great for the texture. The texture is showing up beautifully. The lace is showing up very nicely too. I'm very excited for how this is coming out. I've just gotten distracted by things like a Rhinebeck sweater and have not finished it yet. So, this is good. This is a good splurge yarn. Like, it's a little bit more expensive because it is hand dyed in Uruguay. Like, it's a, what do you call that? I just lost my words. I don't know what you call it. It's creating jobs for native workers in that country. So they dye the yarn in Uruguay and ship it here. So it's a little more expensive, as you would expect, for a yarn that has been hand dyed in Uruguay. Go figure. But it's great. It's very soft. It's very luxurious. And it's, anyone could wear this against their skin. Like, anybody. Unless you have a wool allergy, which would be sad, but it happens. So, let's see, moving right along. I think this is the last whip, guys. I think so. Stick with me. This is a new design that I'm working on. And this is, if you guys remember my yarn doodle shawl from last time, this concept is for a top-down yarn doodle. So instead of it being side to side, it's gonna be a triangle. So this is what I have so far. And I'm just playing with it. I have the stitch patterns I want to use already picked out. I guess I should show it to you this way because technically this is how the shawl is going to be worn. So here it is. And this is in Knit Picks Stroll Tonal Fingering Weight, which is, this color is called Stormy. And the second color I'm going to add in, it's called Canary. So you have, it's going to be really pretty. This is also a single ply, also merino, also not superwash. Apparently I'm going through a phase right now. But this is the same yarn that I used for my one skein shawl, the I'm Keeping This Shawl pattern. And I really, really liked how it crocheted up. So I decided to see if I liked how it knitted up. And so far I do. It's 430 yards per 100 grams. So I have no concern about yardage. I have no concern about, am I gonna have enough yardage to make a shawl? Because that's like 900 yards between the two of these. Not concerned at all. It is more than enough for a shawl. And it's very lightweight because it's a single ply. So it's very kind of fluffy and light feeling, which is nice because I don't really like a heavy shawl. I would like to have a scarf or shawl that's just sort of loose and just sitting there as opposed to one that hangs. I don't like the shawls that have so much weight that they really hang. I just like them kind of loose and fluffy. So this is just in progress. You will see it at some time. I'm trying to slow down a little bit on the designing because as I have mentioned before, I am pregnant and I just pushed really hard to get maybe 4 patterns out in this last month or so, and I want to slow down a little bit. There are still patterns coming. I still have ideas. There's still patterns in progress, but I'm not going to be cranking them out as fast as I have been for the first half of the year. And part of the reason for that is because I found out that the baby I'm having is a little girl, and I want to do lots of little baby knitting. So you may see in the weeks and months to come some baby knitting because I like to make hand knit things for my kids. And I already have 2 boys, so this is my first chance to make little cute things, little ruffly things, and so I'm going to make them. So you guys may see some baby knitting, and don't worry, it won't be all pink, and it won't be all pastel, and it won't be like, I'm making a garter stitch blanket, because I would lose my mind. But you might see slightly less on the design end, and slightly more on the projects, me just doing some project knitting. So, let's see. Is that all my whips? No, it's not. Give me a second. Speaking of little girl projects, I decided to start just a really simple crocheted granny square blanket for her. Dropped my crochet hook while the kids are sleeping. Ta-da! So this is, it's just a couple rounds of granny square and then a couple rounds of solid. So it's nothing crazy fancy, but I do use baby blankets a lot. So I wanted to have something basic that I could just not worry about. It is acrylic, it is Premier Yarn's Puzzle, which is technically a bulky weight yarn, but when I work with it, it is decidedly more of an Aran weight yarn or like a heavy worsted weight yarn. It's not that heavy. I'm using a J hook for the blanket and it's working out exactly how I want it to. So, just found a pacifier in my knitting bag. I've been looking for that. So, I'm probably gonna work this until it's about, I don't know, maybe like 30, somewhere between 30 and 40 inches. So it's enough that I could wrap a baby up in it, but it's not going to be so big that it would be too big to travel somewhere. So that's that. This next one's really funny. So my for real last whip is, I have a really good friend of mine who her sister-in-law has celiac disease. So if you don't know, that means that she cannot eat gluten, which is like bread, oats, rye, wheat, things like that. So she asked me to make her sister-in-law a toast blanket, which is literally a blanket that looks like a piece of toast, because she is going to gift her gluten-intolerant sister-in-law a toast blanket. I must applaud her sense of humor. So, I found a pattern, and I believe it's literally called toast blanket or toasty toast blanket or something like that. And I'm using that really fluffy, I'm using the fluffy yarn, the Bernat blanket yarn. And for right now, the pattern is just, ooh, I'm stuck. The pattern is just me going back and forth in single crochet. And there'll be a little bit of shaping at the top, and, you know, it has little eyeballs on it and a smiley face, and I was like, this is cute. How old's your sister-in-law? 30 something. Cool. So that's okay. I'm making a toast blanket for someone who's gluten intolerant. Yeah. Hope she laughs when she gets it. Yes. I think that's it for whips. For actual finished objects, we're moving on. New segment. It's been 40 minutes. I need to start finishing projects that I start. My first FO is a yarn doodle shawl. And this is the one I was working on last time. The one that is just in the grays. Put it on for you guys. Not on my chin. So, scoot back a little bit. This is my yarn doodle shawl. And this is one of the patterns that I recently released. And this is the second sample of it. It is, now that I put it on, I'm going to take it off and show you. It is a side-to-side asymmetrical toothed shawl. So what that means is that you start here at the little end, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it looks like this. Ta-da! And this particular one, ooh, earthquake. Stop moving, camera. There we go. This particular one is made with Dragon Horde yarn in the colorway with Captain Jack Sparrow and light gray from Dragon Horde yarn. And I love it, and I finally finished it. I actually finished it like a couple of days after I finished recording the podcast, but what you gonna do? I had to wait to show you guys. So that's one FO. And the second one, I'm counting as an FO, but it still needs to be blocked, and the ends still need to be woven in. But I'm totally counting it. And this is my whale of a scarf pattern. So it has the same whale tails as the Call Me Ishmael socks, but it's on a larger scale. And it is a pretty nice long scarf. And you can see how it sits before I even block it out. It's a pretty decent size. And then when I block it out, it's going to be even longer and wider, which is exciting. But this is kind of the length that I prefer a scarf to be at. If I wanted it a little bit longer, I might add some fringe. But I like to be able to wear my scarves under a coat or under a jacket or something like that. So I don't want it hanging down really far. So it's just about elbow length. And this is made from Lion brand Vanna's Choice in the aqua colorway. So this is what it'll look like when it's blocked. You can see pre-blocking, post-blocking. It really does make a difference especially for things like lace. It makes a ton of difference. So this is a pattern that, it's one of my first patterns, and I'm in the process of updating the actual pattern itself. There's nothing really wrong with it as it is. I just have a new style for my patterns, and I'm trying to put all of my patterns into my new formatting. And of course, with pretty pictures. So, that's that. Tossing yarn everywhere. My next FOs, I have 3 from the same pattern. It's another new sock pattern, and these are my Bad Wolf Bay socks. And this pattern I had so much fun with. This yarn is called Drop That Beat, or Drop the Beat, I don't remember, from Dragon Horde Yarn. And it's just so, let's see if I can get this to come up right. It's so, there we go. It's like really bright and funky mixed in with the gray. And this is a top-down sock, because I'm doing something different. It's a top-down sock with an afterthought heel, but, and here's my second pair, I also made an option for it to have a heel flap. So if you're not comfortable with working an afterthought heel, you can work. This is an Eye of Partridge heel, and then it has a square heel turn, which there is a book by Laura Neal called Sock Architecture, and it is so helpful if you want to know like how far do I knit before I put the toe, or if I'm doing toe up socks, how far do I knit before I start the gusset, or how far do I knitting top down, how long do I make the heel flap, or how many stitches do I do. It's amazing, especially if you want to design socks like I do. So Sock Architecture by Laura Neal, and I've been having a lot of fun trying out different styles of heels and heel turns, which is why this has an afterthought heel option and a heel flap option. So my first pair of socks, here they are. And I'm going to put my hand in it again, sock puppet style, so you can see the pattern a little more stretched out. Because, obviously with lace, it looks completely different on your foot than it does right after you've knit them. And I did not block these. I got sock blockers and I ordered them, and apparently getting the size that says 7 to 9, I wear an 8.5 and they were still too small. So I don't know what the deal is, but there you have it. So this is the first pair. And then the second pair is a pair of shorty ones in Yarn Cafe Creations Peppermint Crunch colorway. And this is pretty much multiple shades of tan with little flecks of pink and kind of like a chocolate brown mixed in. So this is the second pair. And then the third pair, look at the green. I think these are my favorite. I went back to the afterthought heel, and this was using part of the remnants of the yarn I used for the first sock. And then the heel, toe, and cuff are in a neon green from What the Flock hand dyed. So this is just the remnant of a full skein, and I love that I can use this because it only used about 15 grams for the heel, toe, and cuff on this pair of socks. So I think I'm going to start using sock leftovers, like mini skeins or whatever, for afterthought heel, toes, and cuffs, because knowing that it only takes 15 grams is amazing. That's a great way to use up mini skeins. It's a great way to use up scraps and remnants from making socks, because if you're like me, I made a sock yarn blanket And I have no desire to ever do that again because it took me like 4 years to complete it. So no thank you, no more, no sock yarn blanket. So these are up on Ravelry. I'm still working on getting the rest of my patterns up onto Craftsy and Etsy. But this is up on Ravelry, my Bad Wolf Bay socks. Ta-da! And the two shorty pairs I am counting for the Girls in the Yarn Cafe shorty sock knit-along. So they're calling it Shorties in a Shoebox. So I'm putting them in my shoebox. And I was super amused. I got a pair of sandals and the brand name was Brash, which is not how I spell my last name, but it is still my last name. So I'm keeping the shoebox. I was like, it has my name on it. Those are the shoes. This is going to be my shoebox for my Shorties in a Shoebox cowl. So, let's see. Acquisitions. No, wait. Spinning. I have two finished skeins to show you, and I am so proud of both of them for different reasons. This first skein, the colorway is called Gumdrops and Rain Clouds from Created by LCB. And the reason I'm super proud of this one is because it is a 2-ply lace weight yarn. Guys, I have my little note that I stick in my yarn. It's 656 yards of 2-ply lace weight, which means that I spun 1,300 yards of singles out of a 4-ounce braid, which is way beyond a record for me. I have never spun anything even close to this fine or little or whatever. It's really, I think I want to pick a shawl for the fall shawl cowl and use this because it's just, it has to be used for something. Like, it's amazing. It's Rambouillet, 100% Rambouillet. So it's a very, even though it's lace weight, it's still springy, which is awesome. And it was a ton of fun to spin. This might be one of my favorite fibers or one of my favorite breeds that I've ever spun with. And the second one I finished, this poor ragged skein with all the ends sticking out, my 3-year-old grabbed and yanked while it was drying. So my skein is a little disheveled. But this is 300 yards of 100% merino, and it landed in a sport to DK weight. It's 14 to 16 wraps per inch, which 15 to 18 is sport weight. So really it's mostly sport weight with just a couple of spots of DK, but it's enough spots of DK that I have to count it. So I don't remember this poor little ragged skein with all the ties in it and everything. I don't remember what the name of the colorway is, but this is also from Created by LCB. And you can't tell from the way it's wrapped up, but it is a gradient, which I'm so excited about too, because it turned out so well. This is my finished skein for the Spin for All 2017 Spin Along. And I spun, it's getting stuck. I spun the entire thing on a drop spindle instead of on a wheel. And if you guys watched the last podcast, you remember that I said I am usually more of a product spinner. I want to see the finished object. I want to see it in my hands. I want to see the yarn. I enjoy the process, but because I don't get much spinning time, I also want to be sure that I'm going to get something finished out of this. So, participating in a drop spindle spin along was really out of my comfort zone, but I thought it would be a nice challenge. And I'm really, really happy with how this yarn came out because I spun all of the singles. I spun from one end of the braid to the other. wound it into a center ply cake, and then plied them together. And I wasn't sure if it would maintain the gradient because sometimes it doesn't. But, I mean, look, you can see in there, there's spots where the color is solid. Like there's spots where it didn't maintain, but there are definitely spots where the gradient, like the same colors are on the same colors. So it's not just going to be marled yarn. It's going to be also a gradient, which is so exciting. I don't know what I want to make with this, but I'm really excited to have 2 skeins of hand spun that I can use to make something. Because I need more whips, right? I totally need to cast on more things. But, you know, anyway. So those are my 2 spinning projects. And I think the next one is going to be, this is not a new acquisition. I just kept it in the box it came in because you'll see why in a minute. It's just easier to store it this way. This is my Mork Made Fiber Co. bat. So I think this is going to be my next project. It is Merino, Silk, and Angelina, 2.8 ounces. So I think I'm going to go for maybe a 1-ply, like a 1-ply DK weight or a 1-ply worsted weight. I'm not sure. We will see. Hang on, the little guy's up. So my 3-year-old's awake, so you can probably see him. There he is, right there in the background. You might hear him come over too. So I'm gonna try to finish up quickly now that he's awake. New acquisitions. I have these 2 lovely skeins from Yarn Cafe Creations. They are her fluffy sock fingering weight base in the apple colorway, and they are 462 yards per 100 grams. So what I'm planning to do with this is, do you remember the gray and yellow yarn doodle, the top down shawl? I'm planning to make a second sample in this yarn in a solid color, and I'm thinking maybe add some fringe on the end. I'm not sure. Pretty excited. I love this color. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, mine. I'm getting 2 of them. It will be a shawl for me. This is what I'm doing. So this is going to be a future, you'll probably see it the next podcast, future project. And the other new acquisition is, I won a, what do you call it? A knit along prize. Kristen Jan Cook from Media Peruana Designs. You remember those hats I made like 3 episodes ago? I won a prize for making them in multiple sizes of the same pattern. And my prize is this funky sock yarn from One Twisted Tree. This says, I'm so excited about this. It's the BFL base, Blue Face Luster. So it's 75% superwash Blue Face Luster, 25% nylon. It is 460 yarns per 100 grams. And the colorway is One Twisted Summer. So I don't have any immediate plans for this, but I think it's going to be fun. I'm probably going to hold it for next spring or in the middle of winter when I want to knit something bright colored and, you know, not wintry. So, let's see. Before I go, plans for future projects. I am a list maker. So I have so many things planned. You can see the ones that are halfway colored in are the ones that I've started. The ones that aren't colored in at all are just ones that I have planned and have not started at all. Who knows if they will get started, but they are my plans. And one of those plans is, I feel kind of silly saying it. You know the fade sweaters? I don't really like jumping on bandwagons, and I don't really like knitting plain stockinette, but I was watching the girls in the Yarn Cafe, and Christy was talking about making the So Faded pullover maybe into a cardigan. And she said she wasn't going to steek hers if she did it. And I thought, well, why not steek it? I like cutting yarn. So I think I'm going to make a sew faded sweater into a cardigan. So it's just going to be plain stockinette, and it'll be some very plain knitting, and we'll see if the color changing keeps it interesting enough that I actually follow through on knitting this. But if I do, I'm going to use Yarn Cafe Creations Selkie, Dragon Horde Yarn Molly Weasley. Guys, I'm not going to be able to hold all of this. Dragon Horde Yarn Ferenzi. Ugh. I'm going to stick this on my finger. Ready? There we go. Dragon Horde Yarn Mother Knows Best. And then, what is this called? Nerd Girl Yarns Distinguished Gentleman. So you can see, hopefully these will work out color blending wise. And like I said, I wasn't going to do any of the fade projects because anytime there's a bandwagon, I'm like, no, I don't want to be on it, go away, I don't want to hop on the bandwagon. But I realized that I have a lot of skeins of, single skeins of indie dyed yarn, and I know that the designer of that pattern pretty much created it so you could use up individual skeins of indie dyed yarn, and I was like, you know, why not? What can it hurt? Get on the bandwagon for once. It's like, Ruth, you don't have to design a faded thing, just knit a faded thing, and you can use up some of the pretty indie dyed yarn. So this is what it sounds like when I talk to myself. This is probably going to be a sew faded sweater. And then, because I am me and I don't want a plain cardigan, I really like shawl collars. So I'm probably going to use a black Knit Picks Capretta. I don't have it in front of me. There's the little dude. Hi, Els. You gonna say hi?
Yeah.
Say hi.
Hi.
Hi. And pick up on the sides of the steek and make a really big shawl collar in black. So we'll see if that happens. Can you scooch over a little bit, buddy? I want to grab the other box.
Oh yeah.
The little man is helping. So I'm going to finish up with my last project, which is Project for the Future. I started this about 4 years ago, and I'm going to show you the diagram first because it's easier than showing you the whole project. But it is a corner-to-corner crocheted TARDIS blanket for my brother, and I literally started it probably about 4 years ago, maybe 3, and I'm about this far. So I want to make progress and keep working on it, and I'll show you a little bit. The background color is this Red Heart Soft in the Jewels or Gemstones or something like that colorway. And then the TARDIS blue is this really basic Stitch Studio by Nicole. It's like $2 from AC Moore, acrylic, that type of thing. So there's no way you're going to be able to see the whole blanket, but you get the idea. There's the bottom edge of the TARDIS over here. And here's how far I've gotten. It's 2 strands held together, and it's a beast. It is so huge. It's 2 strands of worsted weight held together with a K hook, which I believe is 6.5 millimeters. So I obviously have quite a ways to go. I don't know if it's gonna get done by Christmas, but I hope it will. I was trying to get it done for last Christmas, and there's something about being piled under a pile of yarn when it's 95 degrees in the summer that is just not appealing. And also I make lots of excuses when there's massive projects to finish. So I'm gonna try to at least make some progress on that. I'm 4 squares up the side right now, so maybe next time I'll be 10 squares up the side. Who knows? But the little man is hooking yarn with my spindle, so I'm gonna say that it's time for me to finish podcasting right now, a little bit abruptly, but I'm glad that I was able to get this episode in. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. You wanna come say bye?
Yeah.
Come here, come say bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.